Hey guys, Pat here and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be kind of special and I want to start out with kind of a thought. You wouldn't have big stacks of amps if it wasn't for what's underneath this shirt. And a young man who's getting into vacuum tube equipment, his family brought this in to have it serviced and looked at and to be made safe. And I don't normally work on something like this anymore. I have a pretty active shop. There's 63 active repairs in here right now, and you guys have been super patient, and I really appreciate that. Because working on these can take a long time. But I kind of thought, well, a young man getting into vacuum tube equipment, well, I think I'm going to help him out. So I'd like to dedicate this video to Caruso and show you what came before the guitar amp. The radio. So I thought this video was a really good opportunity to reintroduce myself to everyone and show people the shop. Real quick, I started fixing and hoarding tubes and old radios at around 7 years old in New Jersey. And once I got into middle school and high school and started to get into weird music, well, amps were perfect. Guitar amps was just a perfect marriage. And at 21, I found myself, after graduating from DeVry with a degree in electronics, I was living in Brooklyn, supporting myself as an amp tech and working out of Main Drag Music. So I'm very honored to work on Caruso's amazing radio. And let's take a quick tour of the shop. Okay, so this is the shop. Got a lot of repairs in, like I said. Entertainment center, custom hi-fis that I built. Bench 1, bench 2, precision guitars over here, and shirts, precision guitar shirts, and then this is my shirt here. This is my Remember Music shirt, because that's what it's about. These are available on my website. This is the front. This is Main Drag Music here. And this is the performance space. Not a bad basement, if I do say so myself. More radios. So tomorrow morning, we'll open this radio up together, see what's going on. It's a mystery to me. I have no idea the condition of this radio. It's ever been serviced. Maybe it's been recapped. I really don't know. I just want to power it up real quick in the evening here to get a baseline. Does it hum? Am I getting stations? New York City AM radio at night. I love it. This is what we call an all-American 5. 5 tubes, and we'll talk about that when we look at the schematic. This is model 56TN, made in Cincinnati, Ohio. Wow, crazy. So this is our antenna. This wire here is our external antenna for shortwave. Everything inside is going to be quite fragile, and you really have to take your time. I'm going to pull this out very slowly. Oh, all original. I can't believe I was listening to the Nets game last night on this radio. This thing's never even been worked on. So this is going to need a recap for sure, and the new AC cable. '50 Spider. I believe this radio was made in 47 or 48. We'll try to date it later on. So let me show you what we're looking at. This is a variable capacitor. This is what our tuning comes from. These are called IF cans. This is our output transformer. That's our speaker. 5 tubes. AM antenna. One thing about these wax caps, they do not last. Those are going to need to be replaced, all of them. Those electrolytic caps are going to need to be replaced. This needs a full cleaning and servicing. Gonna need some clam sauce for this spaghetti in here. How cool is this mechanical assembly and this toggle switch? Then the center shaft is for this rotary switch. As an AM tech, I look at this and I just see a mess. But as a radio tech, this is standard. You have to understand that back in the 40s when they were making radios like this, there was a price point, they were making them fast, and this was the build standard. By today, it's just completely jumbled. So you do the best you can when you're recapping these. It's going to look pretty much similar. It's not going to look mil spec. It's not going to look like a high watt or a Fender. It's going to be what it's going to be. But our goal here is to make it safe and make it reliable. So I almost wonder if this filter cap was replaced already. And I see a mica mold here made in Brooklyn. I'm pretty sure that was actually in the edge of Bushwick was where the factory was for mica mold. Let's do this. Let's cut out the grounds of these two filter caps, because I want to take a look underneath, because I do see some capacitors. So why don't we start replacing these little guys down here. I challenge you guys, go to the electronics store, buy a piece of gear, and see if it works in 75 years. And if it does, see if it's repairable. Man, the AM tech in me is like, no way. This is solid. This is good. You know, one thing to be concerned about with these radios or any old piece of electronics is the power cable rotting out. It will rot out and it will be dangerous. All right, so essentially all this time what we've done is we've taken a working radio and we recapped it. Now when we power it back on, this will be the first time we're powering it back on, it should be working. And once I know it's working, I'm a little more comfortable going through some servicing. I think we're on, right? Should be on. Tubes are lighting up. Let's see what we get. There we go.
Have distributed 50 million pairs of glasses to people in need, but there's still 1 billion people around the globe who need access to glasses.
Gonna do a little lubrication, but you really want to make sure you don't get any kind of oil on the string or where it shouldn't belong. Just want this to turn a little more freely. Yeah, better already. All right, just like an amp, you want to check for sockets, cutting out, crackles, pops. Looking good. Let's check the underside.
Last year's Big 12 champion and Malik Murphy, freshman backup quarterback, had to carry the load for Texas, and they won.
Some of these wires are pretty rotted out. I'm going to change a few of them. Central Railroad, New Jersey. So I cleaned the plastic lens with Windex, and I'm going to put a little mold killer, actually. on the bottom here and wipe this down. Probably just dirt, not mold, but okay. So these old staples are coming up. Push this here. This cabinet's in pretty good shape, but I am going to put a little bit of this Howard Restored finish on it. Not sure if that's coming up on the camera. Just gives it a nice sheen, a little protection. And let this dry overnight. I like to put a little glaze it on the knobs. Gotta love this swirl and this Bakelite here. I don't have my usual radio alignment tools with me. They're in my other shop upstate, but this is gonna do. So I have a 455 kilohertz signal coming into the radio. You gotta know how to do this too. This could be kind of dangerous, but what I'm doing is correct. There's a capacitor between the generator and the radio antenna. I'm monitoring AC volts off the speaker, and we're going to do a quick alignment. I don't have my plastic tool here, so we're going to have to be a little bit careful. But I've done this before, done this many times. We're peaking it. You can hear the sine wave, right? You want to keep it kind of weak. Pretty spot on. That one's a little off. The dial's spot on. Sports Radio 66, The Fan in New York, coming in loud and clear. Okay, let's take a look at the schematic. So, we all have 3-prong AC cables now in modern homes. You have a safety ground and a hot and a neutral. But back in these days, you had only a 2-prong plug. So you have a hot and you have a neutral. Now in the amp world, we have these things called transformerless amps that could be a little bit dangerous. The Silvertone amp and case is the most notable common example, where the chassis can become hot, directly connected to the hot. It's the same thing with these radios. In fact, the amps people borrowed it from the radio people to save money on not having a power transformer. So in this radio here, if you plug it in the wrong way, the chassis would be hot, and then the neutral goes up to the rectifier. Now you can easily just flip it and put it in the other way, and then the neutral would be on the chassis, and then the hot would go to the rectifier. It works both ways, but potentially this could be dangerous. Now, is it dangerous if it's the radios in a wooden cabinet and you're not poking around inside? No, you'll be okay, but just something to consider. Certainly with guitar amps, because you're plugging a guitar directly into the chassis. So talk to a tech if you have any questions about your amp if it's transformerless. But back to the radios. So the AC cable here, the power comes in to the rectifier, and that creates our DC. The filaments of the tubes are in series, also in series with this resistor. So that's how the filaments actually heat up. It's actually across your AC cable. And this is a dropping resistor. These are our filter caps and output transformer. Okay, so this first tube is called a mixer tube, and this is how a super heterodyne radio works, which is what this is. And there's much better videos than I'm going to explain it, because it is quite complicated how this first tube works. Basically, all your signals are coming in here, and we need to select the station we want to listen to. The way we do that is we have a local oscillator here, and this local oscillator is going to create a frequency. It's almost like a mini radio station creating a frequency here. And we're going to mix the station that we want to listen to with the local oscillator. And we're going to create two new frequencies. When you take two frequencies and mix them, you create new frequencies. So now we have two new frequencies. But the only thing that we're concerned with, and the only thing that's going to pass this IF transformer, is 455 kilohertz. So, an example, if I want to listen to 850 AM, this oscillator is going to create a frequency above it. It's going to create 1305, right? So a little mini station is creating 1305 AM, but I want to listen to 850. So when they mix, you're going to get an output of 455 for a constant 455 kilohertz. And that's all this little transformer is going to pass. It won't pass anything else. So again, as we tune the dial, we're selecting our station by changing the frequency of the oscillator. And everything is blocked. There's all these signals over here. The whole world's over here. But the only output is 455. So we have basically mixed two signals together to get 455 to go to the next tube, which is a gain stage, is an IF amplifier, to go into the next IF transformer, which is also a 455. Then we have our detector tube. Our detector tube is basically like a diode, and you need a detector in a radio because we need to take this radio frequency and make it an audio frequency that we understand. So that's what this tube does here, right? This is just a plate resistor. This is a coupling cap that goes into our power tube. So this is radio. Now this is audio. Our audio comes out here to our output transformer and speaker. So this Crosley was sold in America. This is a 5-tube All-American 5, super heterodyne, or super het for short. The frequency range in America for AM is 540 to 1600. There's also the shortwave band is 5.8 to 15 megacycles. That band's actually wider than this radio will receive, but that was most of the shortwave stations were and still are in that range. The IF, or intermediate frequency, is 455. Now, power supply, AC or DC. Check it out. They're not talking about battery DC power. There were apartments and buildings and entire neighborhoods, usually in the Northeast, in the older cities, that still got direct current to the house or apartment or building, whatever, not AC power. Older neighborhoods were still getting DC power. So you can plug this radio into your AC or DC outlet, and that's your voltage range, 105 to 125. And it says here, when using direct current, it may be necessary to reverse the position of the power in the electric outlet for correct polarity. It also mentions now with AC to reduce hum, reversing the position of the power plug when alternating current is used may reduce power hum. Under no circumstances should a ground be connected to this receiver. Well, that sure is true. These are your tube types. And down below we have the alignment procedure.
Consumer Report says most retailers allow returns until the end of January.
CBS News correspondent Christian Benavides. Even though Americans buy up to 30 million real Christmas trees every year, there are still some left over. CBS's Jen Clark tells us what happens to the leftovers.
Ever wonder what happens to all those Christmas?
Hey guys, thanks for making it to the end of this video. This was a long one. So if you're interested in shirts, go to my website. And again, this is my business, Kaufman Electronics. I'm in the back of Main Drag Music. And remember music, because it's not about the gear, it's about the music. Unless you got cool vintage gear, then that you get a pass.
Later.
Coast Hardware, Long Branch, New Jersey. How cool.